Today we'll be coding this wall jump mechanic, and I will just set up a timer because why not. So yeah, those are my projects, and this is the one I'm currently working on, my project for whoa. So here's our project in Unity, and then we have our Visual Studio script with our player controller right here. So I'm thinking first, there's like two ways for me to approach this. So firstly, here in Rayman Legends there's this wall jump mechanic where you can jump from one wall and then to the other, and then you have those like tight passages. Let me just play it like that, and that's like a whole thing. You can only jump from one wall to the opposite one. And then there's the Hollow Knight way, which you can kind of like, as you see here, he jumped like on the same wall over and over again, and you can like ascend that way. So we're going to try both things, but first we have to like make the player slide down a wall when he grabs onto it, and then he can jump, and that's present in the, both games. So yeah, I just wrote it down here to do those two first. I am thirsty. McDonald's cup. 44 minutes in, and this is what I have. Here's the raycast check on the right side, and then when we move, it's on the left side. Cool. Now we move our character to the wall, and it's pressed to the wall. Away. Not pressed anymore. So now we move, jump, and we go into the wall slide mode, and then we release the button and we fall down normally. That's it, yay! And now what I'm doing here is just setting its velocity to 0, and then applying, like changing the gravity to something relatively small. But now if you ask me, this doesn't feel so good. You just stop suddenly and you slide down way too slow. So let's add a minimal velocity to that. And we have a bug. See that? Okay, wall sliding now officially works. That was not an actual wall slide animation, but I just used something I had on hands. Seems like I discovered another bug. So you see that weird wobble? Yeah. So actually I just removed the feature when you let go of the buttons they start falling. You just, when you're on the wall, you stay on the wall unless you turn the other way. And as you can see here, Hollow Knight does the exact same thing. So I don't think that's a problem. So we are at 2 hours and a half, and wall slide is working perfectly. Nice. I took a short break just to stretch a bit, because yeah. Moving on to wall jump. Just ran on a little side task and made those little regions so that my code is a bit more ordered now. It kinda works. but then it kinda doesn't. The fix would be here to strip the player of the control a bit for a few seconds, or a few frames rather. Okay, so I added wall jump lock time and it works. Woo! This feels really satisfying. The character jumps way too much, which is really quite something. Look at that super jump. It's hard to perform it because I need to add some input buffering. That's basically saying if you press a button right after some frames after already exiting the wall, you still jump. Yeah. Okay, no, so actually what I said was coyote time, my bad, and then jump buffer is actually the time when you press the button slightly before you enter the wall and you still jump. Alright, now we are at 4:30. I've done a lot of bug fixes, but our guy still tends to fly like a superhero sometimes. Otherwise everything is working pretty smoothly. But yeah, I'll try some other stuff still. Yeah, I finally cracked it, so I keep forgetting that. What is happening is, or actually here, it sets to wall jump, but then this code still executes if there's no additional check for this state. So yeah, annoying. And there we go. Let me build a little level. We're about a little bit over 5 hours. And now everything is working both ways. But jumping from one to another is still faster, so speedrun strats. Here I also added max wall slide speed, which is just maximum speed you slide down the wall, so it can't get too fast. Now this bundle will run the mechanic through the 7 rules. Whoa! Here I have them, nerdy stuff. More nerdy stuff. And written like a 5-year-old. But that's so you can read it. Because I know you can't read my cursive. Okay, so first rule is predictable results. And I would say the mechanic is pretty predictable. So, okay. Then second one, instantaneous response, which I would say lacks a bit because I don't have animations yet. So no additional UI, user interface, or visual effects yet. Third rule, easy but deep, and well, yeah, it's one of the core movement mechanics that's works the same way as the jump does, so I'm gonna check that. Then fourth, and again this is pretty much the same as jump. Also, I kinda like the Hollow Knight way, which is you can jump on one wall, and I think there are multiple more usages for that, so I'm gonna keep it in. Fifth rule is appealing response, or juice in game dev terms, which is sound effects, visual effects, particles, reward bonus combos. Obviously I don't have that yet, so let me just do that because I'm kind of pushing it back for later. So yeah, all of it. Then sixth rule, organic motion, which yeah, it's jumping, gravity applies to it, everything is pretty much organic. harmony as a 7th rule, and then I would say it feels about as smooth as every other movement in the game, so yeah, it pretty much works. This additional rule is basically coyote time and input buffering, which we did. That also kind of adds to the first row, so yeah, that's already checked. Which means all I have to do still is basically make an animation, add some particles, sound effects, visual effects, and that's it. But obviously I will test it in multiple scenarios and then maybe add some stuff, some improvements along the way. But yeah, that is 5 hours and 20 for today, which it's getting kinda late, so I'm gonna finish for today, wrap it up.